June's mink and fox coat transformed into a throw and 2 pillows.
Today I'm going to be working on a mink and fox trimmed coat. The fox collar goes all the way around the whole coat and down to the base of the coat itself. The mink is in really nice condition. It's nice and soft. The customer chose to keep her lining and use her lining in her backing, as well as preserving her monogram. The customer would also like 2 pillows, but we'll see how much leftover fur we have when the project or when the main throw is completed. All right, let's get started.
Like I stated before, the coat is in excellent condition. What I didn't tell you is that this coat was filled with sawdust. Every place that I touched, sawdust came out, and I kept finding sawdust in this room for quite a few days afterwards. But the lower lining here, when I opened it up, it just kept falling out all the way across, and even when I thought I was done, there was more in there. But anyway, the customer chose to keep her lining. She wants to preserve the monogram and use it as part of her backing. So I'm going to take special care in removing that lining. But as I make my way across, going into the collar area, I just find more and more sawdust that's in there, and that's kind of unusual to find so much in the collar area. It's just usually not there. Mostly in the bottom portion of the coat and the sleeve cuffs, but usually not so much in the upper portions of the neck area, so that was kind of interesting. Here I am removing, or slowly starting to remove, the fox collar from the coat and changing the blades. Always make sure that it's nice and sharp. Remove the shoulder pads, and I'm still taking off the lining. And as you can see, as soon as I touch that, the cuff area, there's just more and more sawdust falling out of this coat. Here I'm removing the fox collar, and I'm going to be using that as part of the trim. And I'm going to be removing some ribbon that's at the bottom of this fur. This way it's nice and clean when I go to sew it later. And as I opened it up and I looked at it, I realized that the lines of the coat themselves are fairly straight. So instead of making my usual straight cuts that I would normally do, I'm just going to work in the armhole, and there'll be a little bit more of a video later for that. But here I'm just cutting the sleeves and the cuff area. Now I'm going to preview to make sure that I can actually use the sleeves for that, and it looks really good, and I'm going to. But the lining was really dirty because of all the sawdust, so this is the first wash, the second wash, and then the third wash. So once I measured it out, I realized that because it is pretty straight, I'm going to use the sleeves to patch the holes. I'm also going to be closing up the pocket area, and I'm trying to figure out how many pillows I can actually make, and at the end I was able to make 2. Now I'm going to be working on the sleeve opening, so I'm going to cut a rectangular area out. I measured it out. I'm going to transfer those measurements to a piece of the sleeve, but first I preview it to make sure that it's going to look good. Like putting a jigsaw puzzle together, all the pieces have to fit properly. I add my cold tape, and the cold tape is used to support the stitching when I go to sew the pieces together. And before I do the final cut, I am going to preview it to make sure that it fits properly. Perfect. I put my cold tape down and I do my final cut. That looks great, and then I'm going to flip it over and I'm going to put the cold tape on the inside portions. I'm going to look to see if there's any overhang. If so, I need to cut that off. And all that's left is to bring it to the fur machine after it's been clipped together.
Okay, so I sewed the pieces in. There's my one patch. Here's the second. Perfect size. And look at that, they look great.
Now that the armholes have been put in, I now have to start working on how the coat fans out. So I'm marking the fur, making a straight line down, and I'm going to do it on both sides because the bottom does fan out. So what I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to cut those pieces. They're going to be triangular in shape, but then I'm going to put those pieces together to form an additional strip. And once that strip is done, I'm going to divide that strip in half and add them both to the sides, and both sides will be equal. So I'm not losing any fur by working it this way. I am cutting a nice straight top to make sure that the top is nice and even. Now I'm cutting down the sides. I'm following the lines that I had placed on there already. And right here is where I preview them. So I'm going to sew that together, then I'm going to cut it down the center and add it to the edges.
Okay, so I took those two pieces, I sewed them together, and in order to make a border or a side border, I'm going to divide it in half, cut it down the center, put one side here and one side here.
So now I just have to cut it down the center. I measured it out so it's equal on both sides. I'm going to look at the direction of the fur. So when I lay it out, I want it to be laying in the opposite direction of the original fur. That will add some texture to the sides of the fur. Once that's put in place, then I can pin it all together. But now I'm going to preview the fox collar and you will see that the fox collar is just not long enough to go all the way around. So I did top and bottom instead. Once the fox was put on, I measured it out. It was 1.5 inches on top and bottom. This is my dog Xena. She's always around helping. I'm making my custom backing. Once it's all pieced together, I make sure that it fits the top of the fur. Quilt it on the long arm. Layer it. Sew it to the fur. The final measurement was 45 by 46.5 inches. Then it was to work on the pillows. This pillow is 12 by 14. The larger is 18 by 18. I mirrored the same look as the main throw. These are the pillow forms that I'm going to be using on the inside. Oh, here's my baby again. I blocked her so she couldn't come in. So here is the final project. The thicker part of the fur is at the top of the throw. The smaller pillow is in front. This is the 18-inch pillow, and that is the 14-inch. What a great project. Come visit us at dinahsquilts.com.